This is too loud. Turn it down. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parujaka Acharya Ashtotar Data Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parujaka Acharya Ashtotar Data Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 5th day of July 2021 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 13, Nature, the Enjoyer, and Consciousness, texts 8 to 12 and on 537. And we'll continue with this purport. We'll try to make a little more headway tonight. And the title of the talk is Further Exploration of the 20 Principles of Knowledge and Bhakti. Okay. Amanitvam adambitvam ahimsa chantararjavam acharyopasanam shaucham stayarmatma viningraha indriyarteshu vairagyam anahankara evacha janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha doshanudarshanam asaktirana vishvanga putra dhara graharishu nityam cha samachittatvam ishtanishtopapatishu Mahichananya yogena bhaktiravyavicharini viviktadesha sevitvam aratir janasangsadi adhyatma jnana nityatvam tattva jnanartha darshanam eta jnanam iti proktam ajnanam yatatonyata. Okay, 10-second time out here. Okay. Translation. Humility, pridelessness, nonviolence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age, and disease, detachment, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, and the rest, even-mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, aspiring to me, Krishna, aspiring to live in a solitary place, detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self-realization, and philosophical search for the absolute truth. All these I declare to be knowledge, and besides this, whatever there may be, is ignorance. So just before we read this, several sections of the purport, you recall, hopefully, that Arjuna asked Krishna a sixfold question. What is Prakriti? What is Purusha? What is nature? What is the enjoyer, living entity, trying to be enjoyer? What is the Chaitra and the Chaitragya? Remember what the Chaitra is? The body, the field of activity, which is the body. And the Chaitragya is the knower of the field, the living entity. And what is knowledge? And what is the goal of knowledge? So Krishna is now answering the question, what is knowledge? He's summarizing it in these 20 points. And we've read a few of them. We're going to begin near the top of page 540 with tolerance. Tolerance means that one should be practiced to bear insult and dishonor from others. If one is engaged in the advancement of spiritual knowledge, there will be so many insults and much dishonor from others. This is expected because material nature is so constituted. Even a boy like Prahlad, who only 5 years old, was engaged in the cultivation of spiritual knowledge, was endangered when his father became antagonistic to his devotion. The father tried to kill him in so many ways, but Prahlad tolerated him. So there may be many impediments to making advancement in spiritual knowledge, but we should be tolerant and continue our progress with determination. Okay, I'm going to go on because I think we read that. Yeah. Simplicity means that without diplomacy, one should be so straightforward that he can disclose the real truth even to an enemy. As for acceptance of the spiritual master, that is essential, because without the instruction of a bona fide spiritual master, one cannot progress in the spiritual science. One should approach the spiritual master with all humility and offer him all services, so that he will be pleased to bestow his blessings upon the disciple. Because a bona fide spiritual master is a representative of Krishna, he bestows any blessings upon his disciple, and will make the disciple immediately advanced without the disciples following the regulative principles, or the regulative principles will be easier for one who has served the spiritual master without reservation. Okay, we read this before, but I think we'll discuss this. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chukshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Shri Parampara. All right, just a few words about tolerance. When you read the Bhagavad Gita, if you may recall, when Krishna begins his instructions in chapter 2, he first berates Arjuna for lamenting what is not worthy of grief, namely the material body. And then he says that we're all eternal. I, you, and all these soldiers, we've all existed before. We exist now, and will continue to exist in the future as individuals. And then he gives this very seminal verse on the transmigration of the soul. Nehi nosmin yata dehe kaumaram yovanam jara tata dehantara prapti udhiras tatanamuyati. It's a wonderful verse because anyone can contemplate this and the light bulb goes on. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I was once a child and I grew up to be a little older, and now in this present age, and my body certainly changed, but I'm the same person. Therefore, QED, I'm not the body, right? So why is Krishna speaking about this? Well, Arjuna is has laid out an argument. Did I say Omagana? I don't think I did. Okay. I don't think I did. Okay. Let me go on. So Arjuna is identifying with his body, or at least he's covered in such a way that he is, so that the Bhagavad Gita can be spoken. And he's saying, I can't even bear to think about living without these Dhartarashtrans, these sons of Dhritarashtra. And there's my beloved grandfather, Bhishma Dev. We may say a foster grandfather. He wasn't the seminal grandfather. He took that role when Pandu died. Beloved of everyone, including the Pandavas. And there's my beloved teacher and all his brother-in-laws and cousins. There's all kinds of relatives. And so he's in this material consideration, he says, I don't care about this kingdom. I'd rather live by begging and go off, rather than do this. So he's in a gross material consciousness there, presenting that. And so Krishna is encouraging him. He encouraged him before to fight. How is this impotence gone upon you? Give it up. Get up and fight. Throw it away. And this does not become you. All of these arguments didn't help. So now he's speaking transcendental philosophy. Arjuna has accepted him as a guru, which is a different relationship, right? He's saying basically whatever you say, I have to believe. So now he's come to the point. Okay, now I understand that nobody's really going to die. That continues for the next 18 verses or so. A whole lesson on the soul. Actually, 30 verses. No, I think 20 verses. Just on the eternality of the soul, characteristics of the soul, culminating in Najayate Mriti Vakadarshan. There's no birth or death for the soul. He's unborn, eternal, ever-existing, and primeval. He does not die when the body dies. Right? That's it. Nahanyate hanyamane. So now, the question arises, can Arjuna just, with this enlightenment, now give up his attachment and not feel anything? No. The point is that even the great devotees will feel separation from a departed Vaishnav. Suddenly the person isn't there anymore, and you're feeling great separation. So the emotions are going to be there. Therefore, the next verse is about tolerance. Matra sparshasta konteya shitoshnastu gadukada agama payanonis tam tatikshvasa bharata. Another famous verse. I remember my experience with these verses. Like the verses called certain memories, when I memorized them. So way back in 73, I joined in March in New York. It's wintertime, And where I worked in the press was a good couple of blocks from the temple. So I'm walking there, and it's like New York winter, 23, maybe 30 degrees max, And it was cold. And so I said, shitoshna sukadukada. Heat and cold, or cold and heat. Winter and summer season, you have tam tatikshvasa bharata. You have to tolerate. And the next verse, you can ask Vijay when you get a chance about this verse. This was important for him. He says, Yami nabdhyantiyate purusham purushasha samaduka sukham dinam so amitat vaya kalpate. One who can tolerate the dualities of this world without being disturbed, that person alone is eligible for liberation. Otherwise, you can't even begin. In other words, the principle of any yoga is to have a steady mind, and this world is full of dualities. There are going to be ups and downs. There's going to be disappointments. There's going to be physical difficulties, mental, emotional, all kinds of things, financial. And so, with all of that, one has to come to a point of equanimity. It's so much stress in the Bhagavad Gita. When they first came out, the word equipoise wasn't known, And so the first Gita is equiposed, and be equiposed. So that was one of the first things I noticed as a proof here. Wait a minute, equipoised. So the word is equipoise. Equipoise means in the dualities and the ups and downs of this world, you have a certain gyroscope in your consciousness where you remain steady. And we have so many examples. Who comes to mind? Of course, Prahlad and Haridas Thakur in modern age, who could remain steady even when being attacked, when they attempted to murder them, and so many different things. And when you study the lives of the great devotees, beginning with Srila Prabhupada, so many things he had to undergo. The taking of vanaprastha and sannyas, that's not easy. Suddenly, you have a whole life, you have children and all these different things, and now for the higher cause, he's, giving it up, that involvement, that complication. So, tolerance is, here Prabhupada puts it on the level of what can be most painful, which is insult, dishonor. It can be more painful than even physical things. Physical pain you can learn to tolerate. But if someone who respects you, suddenly doesn't respect you anymore, or someone who you love insults you, it can hurt you to the quick. It can become practically suicidal, out there. So be practiced to bear insult and dishonor from others. And how is that possible? When you have an established relationship with Krishna. Now don't forget that the key quality here is, Prabhupada explains, what's the verse, number 10, 11? Mai chananya yogena bhaktadava vicharini. 8, 9, 10, 11. Abhyabhicharini means undeviating devotion unto me in bhakti. That's the quality from which all the other qualities emanate. If you don't have that, the other ones, as Prabhupada says, are useless. Even if you can contain them, but bhakti helps you to attain these others. But it doesn't mean that yes, they come naturally, but also we need to practice. Just like amanitvam. Amanitvam is lack of desire to be honored. Like we have that famous verse, amanina manadena, right? The same. You can hear the same word as there. Amanina means not desiring any praise for oneself, but giving praise to others, who are praiseworthy, especially, And so that's something that has to be cultivated. And why is it the first quality? Because you need that quality in order to approach the Guru. That brings up the next quality. In order to actually allow the knowledge and the mercy to flow from the Guru, you have to approach, and what's the first thing? Tadvidi pranipatena, surrender. That means this word namaha, which we say so often. I'm telling you, if you get into the meanings of these words, there's so much just to learn just from one verse. I think some of you were here when I explained the inner meaning and the deep meaning of the word namaha. You remember? There's a nice book written by Sanatana Goswami called Krishna Leela Stava. It's a summary of Krishna's Vrindavan Leela in actually hundreds of verses, small ones, and interspersed there's obeisances. Obeisances, namaha, 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 like that. Gopi Puranadana, my old friend, he translated that. That's one of the books he translated. So at the beginning, he gives an explanation of what this word namaha means. Now it's guarantee. If you look in modern English dictionaries, or you go and Google online, you can look up the word namaste, one word, and you'll find, oh yeah, it's like the Indians they say it's like hello or honor. So namaste means namahate. I offer my obeisances to you, right, or honor to you. So there's different levels of offering obeisances. There's one where you get on Indian Airlines, and the flight attendants, namaste, welcome, here's your seat, right, like that. So it's like just being polite. They're not surrendering to you, they're not really offering obeisances, but it's a certain custom. So that's the lowest level. Then there's when we actually bow down, but not dandavats, our standard bowing down, that's also obeisances. But the ultimate meaning of it is in this dandavats, where you have 8 parts of the body touching the ground. I think there's a whole science to it, like that. And the meaning is you're bowing down to someone, right? Some person, the guru or the deities, and nama, not mine. This body is not mine. This mind is not mine. Belongs to you. Engage me in your service. And that's why you find when the classic mood of the disciple approaching the guru is shown by Sanatana Goswami when he approaches Lord Chaitanya in Benares. Remember, if you know the story, he was able to get out of jail. He was arrested. He was able to bribe the jailer with the money that Rupa Goswami saved, that he cashed out. That's all a very wonderful story. And then, a long, trip getting through. There's another story to be told how he finally got to Benares, and Lord Chaitanya happened to be there. He came down from Allahabad, or Prayag. And so he finally met Lord Chaitanya, and then he approaches him, to surrender. And there's that famous word, Kayami, Kainayamai, Tari, Tapatrayajaya, I forget. Who am I? Why are the threefold miseries giving me so much trouble? If I don't know this, what use is all my erudition, like that? But how does he approach? With the straw in his teeth. He surrenders, you see? He's like that. So the idea is this sense of surrendering means all, whatever I thought I had in the way of erudition or knowledge, I realize it's useless. I'm surrendering unto you. Please enlighten me. It's 434. We've studied it months ago. Tadvidi, you will understand that. Tadvidi means what I just explained in terms of jagya. But basically it means you will understand the science of Krishna consciousness if you do these things. Pranipatena pariprashnena sevya. Surrender and service and questions. You can't ask questions if you don't have the surrender. Pariprashnena sevya upadekshanti te jnanam jnananas tattvadarshana. So the one who is in knowledge, who has seen the truth. In other words, here's someone who is not just saying something that someone else said, but is actually realized, as well as being a channel for previous acharyas. Then he can impart real knowledge unto you. That's worth getting. So what is the first quality here? Amanitvam. If you're proud, of your learning or anything else, then it'll just be an empty gesture. You really have to feel that I'm helpless here. I don't know what's what. Please enlighten me. As Arjun so nicely he enunciates, Karpan nidosho upahatat svabhava. What this upahatat svabhava means that my nature as a kshatriya has been taken away from me. I've lost it to this miserly weakness and all of this, conflicting emotions I'm feeling here. And I'm bereft. I've dropped my bow. I'm sitting down. I'm confused. What is he confused about? Dharma. What's the right thing for me to do? Very important consideration. We should want to be dharmic, but we should know what dharma is. The real dharma is that which evokes a bhakti, pure devotion that's uninterrupted and unmotivated by anything material. We have a motivation to please Krishna. That's the pure motivation. Please Guru, please Krishna, please the devotees, but not to self-aggrandizement at all. So that all begins with this humility. Adambitvam, pride, or as Prabhupada says, there's another aspect to it, bluffing. In other words, hypocrisy. You can't. You have to be honest with yourself and with the Guru. You have to really be true to it. If there's any kind of ruse or any kind of play acting or any kind of insincerity, you're not going to get the benefit. After all, Krishna's in your heart. He knows exactly where you're at, right? One of the things that a part of surrender is to realize and accept the fact that we're always being watched. The super soul is there. He knows everything. Prabhupada says in the introduction, one should remember this. Now, if you're acting in accordance with the Shastra and the Gurus, and then you feel, yes, I'm hoping he's watching me. I want to get some credit. I mean, you can have that. But if you're doing nonsense and you say, well, maybe he's not watching me. No. Everything is there, you know. This is what it means to be aware. So, amanitvam adambitvam, lack of hypocrisy, straightforward. We went through nonviolence. Now, chanti. Chanti is this tolerance. Chanti is especially, there's another word, tatiksha, right? Tatiksha is another word for tolerance. Tatiksha baka, that's what the mantras bhashita konteya, shitos nasagudukada. Would you like it? Come in and, yeah, you can close it. That's good.
Dravida Prabhu?
Uh-oh. Vijay.
Dravida Prabhu, my obeisances. Are you opening for questions today?
Yes, but give me a couple of minutes, okay? I'll remember you. You remind me. What happened? Were you on vacation? We didn't hear from you.
Summer time preaching engagements, they increase in summer time, but I'm back.
Okay.
I will always be back.
Nice to hear you again, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, welcome.
Hare Krishna.
Please, you're welcome here. We'll have class until 8:15. So just to bring us up to where we were, tolerance. The tolerance has two aspects, right? Obviously, several aspects. The most is physical tolerance of suffering, and even more hurtful, as I mentioned, someone insults you. You know, when your emotions are. So that's what's this chanti, more forgiveness. Forgiveness. What does it say here? Tolerance. Yeah, but Prabhupada explains it in terms of bearing insult and dishonor. You see. So that we're gonna be, you know, there's gonna be difficulties. There'll be insults. There'll be also physical difficulties. All that has to be tolerated. Simplicity. This also goes with adambitvam, a lack of diplomacy, being open even with one's enemies. And cleanliness, of course, inside and out. Prabhupada stresses the chanting of the holy name. And steadiness. And let's see, where were we here? Okay, I don't think we got to cleanliness yet. But these are elements that one should approach the spiritual master with all humility, offer him all services so that he will be pleased to bestow his blessings upon the disciple. And you can see how important lack of pride is for that. If you bestow any blessings, that will make the disciple immediately advance. Now this without disciples following the regular principles. So even if when you first approach, if you have the right attitude, you can be benefited by an encounter. Just like most people encounter Srila Prabhupada today, certainly, by the millions through his books. So you may be, you don't know anything about anything, and you may be breaking all four regular principles, but you have a receptive attitude. You want to change. You have some faith, some interest, and you're willing to be transformed. If it's just if all the barriers are up, then chances are you're not going to benefit from it so much, not right away anyway. So that openness is so important. That simplicity, that lack of duplicity. Cleanliness, internal and external, very important because it supports the mode of goodness. Remember, we talked about this the other day, that doing activities in the mode of goodness is not directly going to give you love of Godhead, but it can form a foundation for being able to practice spiritual life. Even the one activity of like giving up meat eating, which is of course more than cleanliness, but it brings you more into the mode of goodness if you have a diet free of that, a vegan or vegetarian diet. Then you're simply because you're more in the mode of goodness, you're more receptive to these things. You'll be more attracted to learn more about self-realization. Otherwise, let's go party. I'm in the mode of passion and ignorance. Who cares about all this stuff? That's just the nature of the modes of nature. Is that they color everything that you about your consciousness. What music you want to listen to, who you want to be with, what books you want to read, all of this. So being in the mode of goodness means that the spiritual lifestyle is at least part of what you're interested in. And therefore you can be exposed to Krishna consciousness and benefit. All right, where were we? We're in steadiness? All right, steadiness, this is at the bottom of page 540. Last paragraph.
Haribol, Dravida Prabhu. Haribol.
Haribol, Jessica.
I think Vijay Krishna Prabhu wanted to ask a question.
Okay, Vijay?
Yes, I want to ask a question, but only when you stop.
I just stopped. I stopped for you. We're going to run out of time otherwise.
Okay.
He's a regular. He's always. He's in Portugal.
Dravida Prabhu,
I'm ready. Just get nearer to the mic so we can hear you.
Yes, can you hear me?
Now I can.
Prabhu, my question is related to the quality of amanitvam, humility.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you know better than me that this is a world, material world is the same as danger at every step. And I dare to substitute or replace the word danger with the word bullies. This is a material world is the same as bullies at every step.
What? I'm sorry, I'm missing that word. What is it? Bullies?
Bullies.
Okay.
So if you go for being humble, amanitvam, while walking in a world where bullies are the rulers of the world, they will destroy you. So my question is as follows: instead of using humility, why shouldn't I go for arrogance, false prestige, and qualities that would frighten the bullies in order for them to not attack me?
Okay. You mean you want to play at being arrogant when you're around the bullies? Because
yes, please.
I think that if you're in that kind of environment, the best thing is to move within a group of devotees and have a nice kirtan with nice heavy kartals and wampers. This usually puts them off. You know, I don't think you can take on a role as an arrogant, bully yourself. That's not our method. The method is to chant loudly, Krishna's name. You can intersperse Lord Nrsimha's name in there if you want a couple of times, and move in a group. And that way the bullies won't. We've actually had bullies join up when they saw that the devotees were, courageous, and weren't shrinking away and like that. So it depends. If you're in a very difficult environment like that, and maybe move the temple or something, it's hard to have Krishna consciousness situated in a place that's really too much in the mode of ignorance. So I would say yes. Being humble doesn't mean that you. What does it say? It says you try to avoid the ignorance. What does it mean to be in the Madhyama stage? Ishureta Radineshu Balisheshu Dvishatsu Cha. The Dvishatsu was the bullies. Prema Maitri Kripo Peksha Sakaroti Samadhyama. Something like that. So, this verse describes who are the Madhyama Bhaktas, and in the middle stage, we should try to achieve that. And it mentions 4 different categories of living entities. The first living entity is Krishna himself. Ishware, Adineshu, those who related to him, the devotees. Balisheshu, the innocent people, who are not inimical, but they don't know much, but they're maybe receptive. And then the Dvishatsu, those who are out and out envious, the bullies and the arrogant atheists, So you deal with each of them in a different way. For the Lord you worship, you try to develop love. For the other devotees, you develop friendship. For the innocent, you try to have compassion and give them Krishna consciousness. And for the envious, you avoid them, if possible. You avoid as much as possible. And so that platform is one that we can aspire to come to. It's a platform that's really secure and where you preach on that platform. The great devotees, the Mahabhagavats, they're so great that they see everyone as devotees except themselves. So why preach? They have to. This is Prabhupada speaking. Quote: you have to come down to the middle platform in order to make differentiation and preach. And the third platform, Kanishtas, they worship the deities. They'll have reverence for the deity, but not really appreciate the devotees or outsiders. They are prakrita. They call prakrita bhaktas. Their motivation may be material, which is okay. Krishna says this is pious. Chatur vidha bhajante imam jana sukritano jana. Arto jigyasur artharti jnani chabvadatarshaba. There's 4 kinds of pious people who come to me with more or less material motivations. The best is the jnani, who are looking for knowledge. But they're distressed, or they're just curious, or they want some material thing, or they're really in search of knowledge. So I would say that best to try to avoid the bullies as much as possible. After a while, they realize you don't have any money, and the most important thing is they can't get a rise out of you. In other words, if you're really chanting, when this is happening, they'll see that you're not reacting as they expect you to react in a trepidatious way. So that's the best I can do with that. Prabhu.
Yes, again, wonderful answers to my questions. Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. All right, let's move on.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Haribo.
Hare Krishna. Can
Done
I
about?
Yes, Haribo.
Boy, we have
Hare
a whole
Krishna.
crowd out there. How are we doing?
Quick question, Prabhu. Is that okay?
How many? 3?
Just one quick question.
Okay, go ahead.
You mentioned, Prabhu, that being straightforward and no diplomacy. In this world, sometimes when we say straightforward thing, people misunderstand and they don't. So this world is we have to be so much diplomatic and say the way we say it. And sometimes when we try to be straightforward, people think they're hurt or whatever. So I know we have to speak gentle words, but would you talk about it a little bit, please?
Okay.
If it's not worth it, you don't have to. I mean, I was just curious.
One should, I forget where we probably talked about that. Simplicity. Where is it? Simplicity means that without diplomacy, one should be so straightforward that he can disclose the real truth even to an enemy. Well, we may not be on that platform, Better to chant Hare Krishna. In other words, try to avoid situations where you're surrounded by an enemy and they're questioning what do you have in your bank account. In other words, this is the ideal, and in the association of devotees, especially we can be very straightforward. That's what really counts. When you're out and about, then you have to deal with whatever situation you're in, and be as Krishna conscious as possible. But especially in the association of devotees, we shouldn't be putting up a facade and double dealing and all these different things. That's very important. It can really be damaging. That's what I can come with it. Let me go on, because this purport we're going to go on for another week with this if we don't get through it. Okay. Where am I? Steadiness? Steadiness means that one should be very determined, bottom of page 440, be very determined to make progress in spiritual life. Without such determination, one cannot make tangible progress. Okay, so that's a point in of itself. Steadiness, we learn from the Upadeshamrita, right? That famous verse, Utsaha nishchayat dharyat tat karma pavartanat sangatyagat sato vriddhe shadvi bhakti prasidyati. Enthusiasm and determination and patience in the matter of practicing all of the principles of devotional service. Tat karma pavartanat. In other words, these are activities, these are qualities that adhere to certain activities. Enthusiastic for what? Not just in a vacuum. You're enthusiastic to do something, right? And you're determined to do something and overcome difficulties. and you're not impatient, you continue to remain determined and enthusiastic over time in the matter of your regular sadhana bhakti. That's what this is all about. So this is a challenge, because sometimes you're practicing and you don't see any result. You don't feel any result. You know, this is one of Maya's tricks, thinking that you're wasting so much time. You know, you could be enjoying out there. You missed this, you missed that, you missed this party, you missed it. You know. So that, you know, of course, now if you follow the rest of the verse, sangatyagat, you have to give up the association of those who have no interest in devotional service. That's sometimes a big thing, because you have friends, you have family, you know, and you have to minimize that relationship, because that will weaken your determination. And follow in the footsteps of the great devotees, these different things. So that's how you can become steady, by surrender and determination, and you get to a certain platform. Prabhupada talks about different platforms, right? So the platform of steadiness is very important. Even though, you know, you may not feel you're developing prema bhakti right away, but you feel good okay, I'm regularly doing what I'm supposed to do, I'm doing my duties, you know, I'm chanting and all these different things. That's a very encouraging position to be in. And Krishna sees that, and he gives you impetus to advance from that platform. So steadiness is very important. Prabhupada really appreciated that. When someone was stayed at his post and he did his duties and he was regularly, you know, practicing sadhana bhakti regularly. So getting to that point is possible because of the mercy of Krishna. He gives you so much from within. It all depends on your sincerity of purpose. And then Krishna gives you the ability to do what you thought you couldn't do before. That happens all the time in Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada showed the way. It seems so impossible. From the outside, I mean, Samatha Maraji didn't even want to give him a ticket. He said, "No, but you're too old. You're going to die over there." You know, she's like. So what did Prabhupada do? He was so determined, right? He sat down, right on her. There's a picture of him sitting there on her, you know, front steps, you know, chanting, waiting to see her, you know, trying again, getting the P form. I mean, just everything. So determined to try to fulfill that order of a spiritual master and fulfill the prediction of Lord Chaitanya. Inconceivable. At that age, no money, no contacts. So what's the conclusion? Krishna gave him so much power, you know, empowered him. I remember when I was in, after Prabhupada disappeared in '77, it was like a whole thing. I was trying to leave. I didn't have any separate money, but we knew that Prabhupada wanted devotees to go and be with him, you know. So I kept, you know, pleading with my authorities, please let us go, please. I was going with another editor. Finally we went. We left on about, I don't know, the 10th, 11th maybe of November, you know, '77. There's a bomb scare on the plane. I mean, how often does that happen? Bomb scare on the plane. In the middle of the air, we find this out. Okay, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama. I think we chanted about 40 rounds on the way to England. And we didn't land in Heathrow, the main airport. We landed in Scotland. Was it Scotland or Ireland? I forget the name of the airport, minor airport, so that they could check the plane. 24 hours. They went over every inch of that plane. So we had delayed. We didn't get our connection, you know. So we delayed 2 days, you know. So we landed in Bombay. It's already the 16th, I think, of November, you know. Prabhupada disappeared on the 14th. Anyway, so I get there now. Trying to remember where was I? What was the topic of? What was it? The steadiness. Yeah. I'm sorry? Yes. Anyway, I forget why I started telling this about my own adventure there, but I just what it did was I saw. Oh yes, this is what it was. So in '77, so I was there, and I was there for the big ceremony after, you know, Prabhupada was interred, and it was the whole thing. And I was working for Back to Godhead. So we had a mission to go to, when we went to Mayapur, we took the flowers. I mean a bunch of devotees, the flowers that were on Prabhupada's body, you know, when they took him around in Vrindavan, you know, these very sacred flowers. So they would be interred, and then on that would grow up the Pushpa Samadhi. You know, the Samadhi also for the Pushpa as well as the actual body. So in Mayapur, there's a beautiful building there. You know, it was built several years. Ambarish, of course, did it. So anyway, I heard in the capacity of a reporter for Back to Godhead magazine that one of Prabhupada's godbrothers, famous Bhakti Rakshaka Sridhar Swami, had proof that Prabhupada was the Shaktivesha avatar. Well, that's newsworthy, right? So after the whole ceremony, I went across the river to his ashram there, and I met him. Also, Krishnadas Babaji was there. I met him. I don't know if you know that name, but he's famous. And I was invited up into his room. He was on the veranda. And it turns out that the proof was a verse from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Kali Kali Yuga Dharma Nama Sankirtan Krishna Shakti Vina Nahaitar Pravartan. This is a famous verse. In the Kali Yuga, the Yuga Dharma is Harinam Sankirtan. We know that. Only one who is empowered by Krishna can spread that holy name around the world. You know, so Krishna Shakti. If you have that Shakti, you're Shakti Avesh. That's what it means. So Prabhupada did that without question. He alone, you know, of all acharyas, was able to leave India, go around, and you know, he had over 100 centers, and it's still been growing. Hare Krishna became a household word. So that was the proof, and it really struck home that Prabhupada was empowered, amazingly, to do these things and to, you know, bring people into Krishna consciousness, who otherwise would have been a million miles away from it. You know, so that empowerment is there for us also, on a smaller scale, obviously. But as soon as you want to approach Krishna sincerely, and you do it in the proper channel through the great devotees, you know, like Srila Prabhupada, then Krishna will encourage you. He will make and the obvious thing he does is give you the strength to be determined, overcome the additional obstacles, continue with the sadhana, stay in the association, and become steady. Go ahead.
I remember there being another verse that I think you had mentioned in a class. I think, anyway, Padma Purana. I think maybe you said Padma Purana, but of course Padma Purana is huge. So. And
what was the subject?
It was about Prabhupada being a Shaktivesh avatar. It was something about how in Kali Yuga, you know, the holy name will be, you know, spread throughout the world by somebody. You know, I think it said, you know, in the garb of a sannyasi or something like that. But I think it was you who mentioned it. But I've been trying to think about it for a long time.
It's not ringing a bell. But now you got me going, because I'll find it.
Okay.
Once I get to make it, just hold that thought. All right, let's see if we can make a little more headway on this purport. Without such determination, one cannot make tangible progress, and self-control means that one should not accept anything which is detrimental to the path of spiritual progress. One should become accustomed to this and reject anything which is against the path of spiritual progress. Now, doesn't this sound like, you know, it rings a bell for me, the definition of surrender, right? Anukulyasya sankalpa, patikulyasya varjanam. There's a reason why these two are at the beginning. Anukulyasya sankalpa means accepting what is favorable, you know, chanting 16 rounds, getting up early in the morning, studying the Shastra, chanting the holy name. There's so many things that are favorable. And pratikulyasya varjanam, giving up what is unfavorable. Now this may present some difficulty because we're not spontaneously attracted to those things that are favorable. You know, our mind is going, oh, I want to do this, I want to do this. No, you have to do this at this time. You have to get up at, earlier than you're used to. So there's time for sadhana in the morning, whether you're working or whatever you're doing, and so forth. And you really don't want to give up A, B, and C, and D. You're so accustomed to it. So that's an austerity. But that's true in anything. Suppose you want to get a degree somewhere. I mean, you guys got degrees, right, at IT, some IT school in India. So anyone who goes to college means, okay, I can't party all the time. My college career was a joke, I mean, my brain was on, not being there. So the slightest little difficulty, I would go down into the basement and play pool, where I was. Anyway, it never really gelled. My whole academic career was complete when I graduated high school. And whatever I learned in high school, that's what I've been working off the last 45 years. Those were the days when public schools were pretty good. You could get a decent education, K to 12, Anyway, so this is exactly what self-control means. One should not accept anything which is detrimental to the path of spiritual progress. So what does that mean? Give up bad association, always take good association, watch out for prajalpa. These are things that we're used to doing. You say, no, we can't do it anymore because it's damaging to my devotional life. So this is all in the context of following what the Guru says and the sadhus and the shastra, taking that as your instruction. That's what it means to surrender. But you soon find that all those things that were how could I ever give that up? I don't know, who cares anymore? It's not even tempting. What is that famous verse by Yamunacharya? It's quoted several times in the Gita here. Yadavadi mamacheta Krishna padara vinde navanamana sadhaman yuditam rantum asid tadabadi nadi sangame smaryamane bhavati mukhabakara sushtanishtiv. And I'm getting all little pieces of the verses ago. So he says, now here you have to know his background. He was a great devotee in his youth, and he was so good a debater that he won this debate with the court pundit. And the king promised, if you win this debate, I'll give you half my kingdom. I said, all right. So he won the debate, and he gets half a kingdom. Suddenly, he's 15 years old. He's got a kingdom, and he kind of lost. He deviated from devotion for a while, got involved in that. But then one of his friends from the early days, you know the story? He came and he said, let's go for a walk, an old friend. So he said, sure, let's go for a walk. He's the king and he's my old friend, And what did he do? Nectar verses. All these nice shlokas he used to know from when they were in the ashram together. I think he was before Bilba Mangal Thakur, but anyway, Bhagavad Gita is filled in. And so he's getting all into it. He's just recalling, and he was in bliss, And he said, "What am I doing? I've been wasting so much time as this king." And he just kept walking. As far as I know, he never went back to the king. And then he became Yamunacharya, and he was the spiritual master of Ramanujacharya. So then he wrote this Stotra Ratna, and which Prabhupada quotes a lot of times, But this, I don't know if this is in the Stotra Ratna. But now he's saying, what he's saying in this verse, ever since I have been enjoying ever new mellows by serving the lotus feet of Krishna. In other words, Stai Baba, Whenever I happen to remember my affairs with the opposite sex, just spit at the thought. It's not like, oh my God, maybe I'm going to get pulled to that. No, there's no question of it. He's at a different level, In other words, the vairagya it becomes very, very strong. You've done exactly what bhakti is supposed to do, which is sublimate these lower desires into the higher desires. And then you look at it's a different self. You're no longer in that mentality. You can imagine tasting the bliss of prema bhakti at every moment. What comparison is there for these sensual things? Bilba Mangal Thakur, we just heard about him. You can imagine how after becoming Bilba Mangal Thakur and writing Karnamrita, there's no question of going back to that other life. So one has to become accustomed to this, and then one can come to that platform. That is real renunciation. The senses are so strong, they're always anxious to have some sense gratification. One should not cater to these demands which are not necessary. The senses should only be gratified to keep the body fit so that one can discharge his duty in advancing in spiritual life. The most important and uncontrollable sense is the tongue. If one can control the tongue, then there is every possibility of controlling the other senses. The function of the tongue is to taste and vibrate. Therefore, by systematic regulation, the tongue should always be engaged in tasting the remnants of foodstuffs offered to Krishna and chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. And then he goes through the different senses, and we're going to begin that tomorrow. Can someone remember? Because we're running out of time. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hari Bol,
Very
Dhanavai.
nice class as always. Thank you. Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.